What is going on, y'all? Thomas Chang here, and it's gonna give you all another story about a buck that I took this past season in 2017. So my dad and I met up at the ranch on November 4th. So we had gotten ready, and we actually missed the evening hunt, and which wasn't the worst, but we knew that we were gonna be very prepared for the next morning. Next morning we actually split up for the first time, and not the first time, but the first time in a while. And I dropped my dad off at the condo blind, and so you've been hearing me talk about this condo blind, and you may not know what it is exactly, but we call it the condo because it's so big. It can fit about 4 people comfortably with still enough room to shoot. And so dropped him off there, and he was planning on shooting a doe, and I was gonna go to the tripod blind that we have, and so got there, still lights out, still dark outside, and I got settled in, got my 308 ready, and it was about high 40s or so. It wasn't that cold, or it was cool weather. It felt nice actually. So my dad and I looked at the Solunar tables, and we knew it was going to be pretty good for an opening weekend. And so all of a sudden the feeder goes off. A few minutes later, a doe walks right below my tripod stand, and so I didn't make any movements, and she didn't seem too alarmed as well, so I knew that my scent was a-okay, and everything else was too. So a few minutes later, she fed for about 40 minutes, and she probably ate most of the corn that was there. And a few minutes later, out the corner of my eye, I see a deer, and he's looking directly at me. And he's like, you could feel him looking at you. But so I knew he was a buck all of a sudden, and then so I knew that he was going to be a pretty good buck. I could see all black going down from his tarsal glands to his hoofs. And so I was preparing for the shot. I got my rifle up to my shoulder. I got my sights all ready. My scope is pristine, so I have it set up at, I think, 5 or so. So the magnification is pretty good. There was a gap in between the posts that we have from the feed pen that we have, and a couple brushed up trees, mesquite trees and cedar trees. And there's a 3-foot gap that you can see pass through there, and it goes through this cruising way that the deer use, and then on to the next part is the next property. So I knew that was probably my best chance to shoot this deer, because he did not like me up there. He knew I was up there. He didn't want me to be up there. He wanted his corn and wanted out, or he probably wanted to be with that doe. So anyways, I try to buck run at him. I try to stop him, and my voice wasn't the best shape, so it sounded like a weak buck, pretty sure. So he did not like that at all. So he started trotting off into that 3-foot gap, and I knew I put my crosshairs right in that 3-foot gap, and I knew when I saw his shoulder line up with my crosshairs, I was gonna squeeze that trigger, because I did research on the velocity of a 308, and it's fast. So it's gonna impact him, and it's probably gonna put a good hurting on him, still on a moving object about 80 yards away. And of course it did. I squeezed the trigger, and still with that cool weather, all the smoke came up, so I was pretty much whited out, but I could hear a little bit, and I heard the crash of him, and I was so pumped. My dad and I were very thankful that he did not cross over to the next property, because that would have been a real big hassle. So I got down, I looked for blood, and of course, it looked like a murder happened. And so I found him. I was so pumped. I got my dad on the radio. We met up. I picked him up, and sure enough, he was trying to contact me while he was in the blind. He saw a big 10-point and a boxy frame, boxy everything, and he was it looked like, from what my dad had said, he was in the pre-rut stage. He was getting ready to mess around and everything. and that'll be my next video. And that was it for my my first buck of the season of 2017, and I'll keep telling you these stories. Thank you.